What's up, good people? This your boy Scott Lewis, Apartment Gamer and More, here with another one. Brooklyn Nets Stoop Edition. Going here to talk about the Brooklyn Net guard backcourt. And I also have a survey that I want everybody to kind of see. You know what? I'm going to get right to the survey because I want this question to be asked about um, Cam Thomas and how y'all, the Net fans, feel about him being on the team. Let me bring this up. Now, the survey uh, is it a mistake trading Cam Thomas? You know, a lot of people claim that he just doesn't fit. He's just like empty calories. I have actually heard people say that he's going to be overseas. It's ridiculous. To me, I mean, he's definitely one of the elite type scorers in this league. Young gun. I mean, I don't know why scoring does not appeal to people. I thought that was the purpose of playing the game is to score and play good basketball. Yes, there's more to the game than just scoring, but that's also you could say that about scoring. There's more to you just a defensive player and you don't score. What good are you?
That's very true, Scott.
You could say that both ways, you know. And yeah, I just thought I'd just put this survey out. I'm gonna put the link for the survey in the chat. So this way, let me put it in there right now before I forget. And that's the link. Just click the link. Either answer option A or option B. I'm just curious because it makes me feel like a lot of fans don't appreciate Cam Thomas, and I know they do, and I understand the allure of having somebody similar to him but taller and whatever the case may be or what we see on other teams. But those are other individuals. I mean, it's not all the same. And I'm just saying that you need a team. And a team is not just your first five. You need a bench. You need a bench of players. You need players that can score. You can't
You need
just
balance,
yeah, you need balance. And there's 15 players on the team. Injuries happen.
right?
Injuries happen all the time to a lot of good teams. And when it does happen, if you don't have that backup, if you don't have that cohesion with 15 players, then it's all for naught. You can have the greatest player on your team and it won't work. You have the greatest player in the league and it won't work. So I'm just curious. I'm curious what a lot of people would say is it a mistake trading Cam Thomas. Now I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people I'm kind of biased because I'm a Cam Thomas fan. Of course I'm gonna say yes, it's a mistake. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. But what I'm saying is it's not as clear cut as you think. I'm quite sure that the Nets wished he would have took the offer that they gave him. They preferred that, but I think the hanging point of him not taking that contract was him having control of his own destination. That's what he wanted. He didn't. He just didn't want to go from one bad team to another bad team. He wanted an opportunity to be something, to do something, to help somebody. Clearly, he wanted to stay with the Nets, and I don't think it was just the hanging point of $30 million. I really don't believe that.
There was a lot, Scott, in the last 4 years that destroyed this relationship between Cam and the front office. And you saw on media day, Sean said, "Our camp stuck to our guns, Cam's camp stuck to their guns, and this is just the way we're moving forward." I think for Cam Thomas, you've seen in these few preseason games that he's working on the playmaking a little bit, but you could also see him wanting to score a lot and finding that balance. It's a little tough for Cam right now, but in the first few games he's played in preseason, it's looked like he is trying to adjust to what Jordy wants. But at the same time, I keep saying it to people, the month of November for Cam is going to be huge because it's a huge month for him to boost his value. That could potentially maybe 5% repair a fractured relationship, or 95% put him on the trade block and send him elsewhere. Now, your survey is very interesting, Scott. It really does depend on what you get back for Cam and a hypothetical deal, and who does he sign with next year and goes to. If he goes to a contender and he's making 18, $20 million, a great six man, and that team gets to a championship before the Nets do, then you could say, hell yeah, it was a mistake trading Cam Thomas. But at the same time, we drafted five prospects that all have strengths that Cam Thomas doesn't have. And if those five guys pan out, you kind of live with what you get back for Cam Thomas at that point if you do trade him this upcoming fall. So yeah, it's like 50-50 of regret or you're okay with it. And I think the base is very divided on that front for the people that really like Cam's game and for the people that are, a little unsure if his game could really translate to winning. It really just depends on where you fit on that spectrum of things. I think for right now, the relationship between Cam and the Brooklyn front office, it feels like it won't get past the season, just based on the 4 years we've seen of instability, lack of communication, and a lack of belief in each other's vision. Cam wants to be the guy on this team. Front office sees things differently. Front office wants Cam to be a piece of this team's future at a certain rate. Cam doesn't see that. So it just feels like they've never been on the same page the last 4 years. And that's
Right.
what's led us to these events.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because you know he drafted Cam, and this is kind of like the thing that the whole thing to this debacle. I call it a debacle because I think and like I said, I have a certain way of thinking. I think that it was more than just money. That's what I thought. I thought it was more than money. I thought it was just about trying to stay under the keep his option open for probably future star that he can try to draw to the team. And if he keeps his future, keep that salary cap and that space, you have those expiring contracts. Keeping that space open, he can allure a superstar over. Clearly, um, Giannis is be open in 2 years, in less than 2 years, or
Right.
and that he probably see an option to try to get him, but he wouldn't want to come to a team with him being the only scorer.
No, that's a fair point. The biggest
Who
thing we
you,
know about Giannis is that he wants to go to the New York market. Now he did say the Knicks, but the Knicks don't have the draft capital to get
right,
him. They have players, they just don't
right,
have the picks, and that's where
right,
the Nets do come in. Here, we have all the picks in the world, we have matching contracts, but how do you use your remaining cap space to pair something with Giannis, whether that's a second star or great depth? I think if the Nets ever did take the plunge for Giannis, you're banking on that 2026 pick to be one of those four franchise guys we've talked about, the Banster, Boozer, Peterson, or Armont, to pair with Giannis, which might entice Giannis to want to be part of a younger team, because at least he knows he has a second star that can help bring along. But that's a huge what if, and that really depends on what we do this season. I mean, you heard it, Scott, with Joe Desai. We have a 2026 pick. We want the best pick possible. And Jordy said this organization is great at selecting different prospects, where that hasn't always been the truth. So I think this front office knows that they screwed up last year and that this year they have to get it right. And that starts with letting your young guys play a lot this season and don't let the vets take up all those minutes. I mean, I don't know if you saw preseason, Drake Powell in his limited minutes and Danny Wolf in his limited minutes, they both look really good right now. Like they are contributing and playing in high pressure situations. And the sad thing is you have vets on this team right now that are going to take their minutes away for the first few months and they won't get to play as much. Like if Joe, Jordy, and Sean are serious about this being a new era, You got to trust in the guys that you drafted and see what they can do. I don't have a lot of faith in Ben Sarask's game, but I'll admit today was probably his best game of the season. 11 assists. Are you kidding me? Like his playmaking IQ makes up a little bit for his lack of offense and lack of defense at this moment because he is giving you some playmaking IQ. So there are little ebbs and flows about these prospects. I've seen where it goes. I want to see what they can do for like the first 40, 50 games of this season and see if they are a part of our future or not. But you can't do that if these vets are taking up all the minutes. So this
Yeah.
organization needs to put their feet in the ground this season and push the young guys forward and hope we get a top franchise guy to pair with the five guys you drafted in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't want it to be another waste of a year.
Exactly.
Really, last year wasn't a waste.
Eh,
I mean, you got 5 picks.
yeah.
If you figure 2 out of those 5 actually become part of the future of a team that making a run, then it wasn't a waste. It wasn't a waste. A lot of players, and a lot of teams don't get 2 picks in the first round, and both of them are on the team on a championship run team. Usually, there's a lot of movement in the NBA. Players move from one place to the other. They go one place, they be at one place, sitting on the bench, and go to another team and become instrumental in a movement into a title or a championship run. You know, that's the most or the best you can ask for. I don't think that we think that all 5 of them are not going to be useful on a team.
You would hope they'd be useful. And if I'm looking at what this full potential could be, let's say in a crazy universe that Saraf is more than what we think he is right now. Let's say he is somehow a starting point guard. Okay. Let's say we do trade Cam this season. That opens up the two guard for Drake Powell. Let's say Yegor is a point forward, but he's really a three. He's our third. And then let's say Danny Wolf becomes our starting five. If you draft a wing in next year's draft, hypothetically, your starting five could be who you drafted this year and next year, and Nolan Trayor could be your sixth man. In a perfect world, if all those things happen, then damn did this organization pan out in what they set out to do. Whereas everybody believed that it was a farce, a joke what they did on draft night. That might be a little hope if that plays out like it does. But there's still a lot left to be decided. Like Saraf has a lot he has to work on if he wants to be the head guard. We have to see Yegor play for a full season, and right now he might miss a little chunk of time. And Powell and Wolf right now can't play main minutes because they're getting blocked by Thomas Claxton and a lot of these other vets on the team. So in a perfect world, you let these young guys play and be your future starting core and one of them be your sixth man. But right now, it's tough when you have all these fluctuating vets that are not really long-term vets. I keep hearing the last few podcasts I'm on that these vets we have are important for these young guys, but if they're under contract for very short-term purposes, are they really that important? Or are they pieces to get you more assets so you can let those guys grow, get those winning bets eventually, and then have a winning formula? I think that makes way more sense long term than just having vets that are not going to be here long term, take up the minutes, boost their value, and then say sayonara when next summer comes along. That's what can happen this season, Scott. Like
Yeah,
we got to push the young guys forward.
yeah, you got to get them minutes. You got to get them minutes.
Exactly.
That's the only way they're gonna actually figure out who's who, and what direction they can go. What they need. I personally, how I feel. You need a point guard. I'm from that generation that
Definitely.
believes in a good point guard, and that's still up in the air. We still don't know. Like Nolan is good, but he showed to me. I mean, he's iffy, and I don't know if that's jitters. The turnovers. As a point guard, you just can't turn the ball over, man. You just
You,
can't. You
You
just
know what?
can't.
You know what Pod said today on Breezy's show? That's very interesting. I think it was Pod on that. He comes from France, where the basketball there is very quick, run and gun type pace. In
Right.
the modern day NBA, they take that away from you, and I think we've learned in these first three preseason games that Nolan has the speed. That's not a lack whatsoever. Biggest strength, but everything else about his game needs
It's,
serious work. He doesn't have a
yeah.
set jump shot. Defensively, we all knew drafting him that was going to be his biggest weakness, and that's where conditioning, getting physically stronger these next 2 years is essential for Nolan's game because he doesn't want to be in the situation guys like Cam Thomas and Jordan Poole found themselves in, where you can score like nobody's business, but if other parts of your game aren't as good as what your main power is, you become expendable. And I don't want that for Nolan. I think Nolan has value to our team as a six man. If Saraf, let's say, somehow does surpass Nolan Trayor, because they are competing with each other right now. Let's say he does, and for now he is the starting guard. Nolan being our six man is not the worst case scenario. Let him play with the second unit. Let him see what he could do with his speed, become a better playmaker. He still has a role on this team. But as far as being the starting point guard, Nolan has to get better defensively and get stronger physically, because he's not handling physicality right now. If he doesn't if he is able to blow by a guy like super quick, he just stops in the dirt, and that is a big weakness for him to work on right now. So I would say Nolan right now might have the biggest chance of being in the G League to start this season, because out of the 4 out of 5 guys that played, he seems like he's behind Drake, Danny, and I can't believe I'm saying it, Saraf right now in the
Right.
pecking order. And
Yeah.
that's just something for him to work on. It's not a negative thing completely. It's just now we're knowing early on what Nolan really has to work on. And for him, got to get stronger physically and be a better defender. And if he does those things, Nolan will be legit competition for Saraf. But Saraf, even though he's a much slower guy, he's able to make the right reads that I've seen the last few games, which I'm surprised, because I thought that'd be a weakness of his. But he's actually reading his teammates a lot better with his slower pace. Whereas Nolan, he has the quick pace, but he's not really finding anybody for a lot of good opportunities. And that's something he has to work on with as well, adjusting his speed to handle the modern NBA.
Right. So I mean, I wanted to bring up a thing about Igor, and like I
Mm-hmm.
know he's out for a while, but he's the eighth pick in a pretty decent draft. I mean, 1 through 10 was decent. It wasn't the greatest in the world, but it wasn't the worst, and it wasn't bad as the one prior. It was a decent draft. There was some decent pieces 1 through 10. Now he was drafted eighth.
All right.
That means he should be valuable on the court. He should show something when he gets on court. If he doesn't show any skill level, then that was a waste of pick.
Absolutely.
So
I
this
agree with you.
this is where Sean dropped, either made it or dropped the ball.
Done that a lot.
No,
And I would say this about Yegor. What he has shown you is leadership skills. He admitted conditioning is one of the things he has to work on, and he added 10 pounds of muscle. So I think for Yegor this season, you're not going to see crazy scoring from him, but you're going to see him make those little progression notes as far as being a leader on the court, off the court, being able to take what Jordy wants on any given night and to work on his teammates. Because I saw in the summer league, he was very vocal a lot of times on the court with these young guys, and I think that's a great leadership factor that Yegor has. And for him this year, it's bulking up, getting stronger, getting quicker as a player, and trying to expand his offense. We've seen him work on the three, but we want to see that interior game. So for Yegor, like you said, Scott, he has to showcase why we drafted him with our first ever lottery pick, because he is Brooklyn's first ever lottery pick. And the
yeah,
injury thing definitely puts a little damper on things, but I think he will be able to go no later than early November, which is not bad. But you definitely want him to start with this team. But as long as he's playing, being active, being a leader for these young guys, his teammates of the future, that's a positive with Yegor. But there are definitely some people, Scott, that are saying Danny Wolf might be the real lottery pick, because that guy's stuffing up the stat sheet with points, with rebounds and assists right now. And some people are even saying that Drake Powell is the steal of our draft. So for Yegor, he shouldn't feel any pressure to have to surpass expectations. He needs to make his own expectations and blow those away. So I think for Yegor right now, he's in a good place because you're seeing leadership. But I do agree, we got to see him play a whole season. And the injury thing definitely made some people worried that this might have been a botch by Sean Marks. And let's call this what this is. Derek Whitehead, we say he had to come to training camp fully healthy, fully ready to go. In 3 preseason games, he's played garbage minutes, and he didn't even play one game in China. I think the writing's on the wall with Whitehead, and that's a Sean Marks move that really was a swing and miss, because
yeah,
Whitehead has not been able to do anything. This was a guy who was a former potential lottery pick, got picked with us in one of the late 20 picks, and We just see nothing from him as far as consistency and health goes. So if he gets waived in a few weeks before the roster's finalized, that's a huge Sean Marks loss right there that he has to admit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's people in that first round that's gonna do good, and then there's some even lower numbers, some that get picked in the top 10 that are not going to be on a team, NBA team. And I mean that. I mean, we seen it. We seen it with our own eyes. And sometimes we get a little happy about how to, use the draft to, and you have to. It's part of the game, using the draft to get your team better. But you got to make good picks, man. You got to have
Right.
a vision. You got to have a vision before it even happened. You know, you have to see it before it even happens. You know, I don't know if Sean picked right, and you know how I felt about getting the point guard, but it seems like Igor might not even be the point guard. We'll see. Could you imagine Igor and Cam Thomas on the same floor if it can work?
I mean, if you make Yegor the point forward, it definitely helps give Cam some defensive coverage, and Cam is able to get in his spots a lot more, where he can focus on his playmaking being better, asset, work on his defense being somewhat better on effort because he's not running point whatsoever on a team. With Yegor, he knows how to make the right reads. It's just being a wing, he can't just be a guy that sits in the corner and knocks threes down. I need activity from Yegor in a lot of set plays. I think that's what Jordy has to figure out. Yes, you want him to be a combo of a guard and a wing, but you do not want this guy to just sit in the corner and shoot threes. You want him to be initiating offense, to be pushing pace in those little details, which I think will benefit Yegor's game, and that's what getting stronger, become more of a physical force. I just think for him, he definitely has to be in our starting lineup. He can't be a guy coming off our bench, being one of our first ever lottery picks. So for Yegor, his development this year will be crucial, and I think the biggest hope with the Flatbush Five is all five of them become rotation players, even if one of them or two of them has to be coming off our bench. As long as they're serving purposeful roles, that's the best you can hope for with this draft. Because I one thing I didn't like about the draft was it felt like we got too much of the same player. But given that Sean Marks wants to embrace positionless basketball, it's like, okay, can they actually play positionless basketball? Because not everybody can, Scott. You see with Cam Thomas, this is the biggest problem with Cam Thomas. He's not a positionless player. He's a guard, a two guard that can play make a little and drop 30 points. Like asking him to do the things that is going to be asked of Danny Wolf, asked of Yegor, asked of Drake Powell to guard multiple positions. That's something that doesn't work to Cam's strength. And even some of these players on this team, not all of them can play different positions. So those are the ones that unfortunately you'll have to weed out if your goal is to create a positionless offense and defensive squad that can play multiple positions and be lethal on all sides of the ball. And right now, we definitely have a team of imbalance. And for this season, you want to figure out who fits with the Flatbush Five, who can play positions basketball, be integral members, because our bench has to be as strong as our starters, and that's one of our biggest weaknesses the last 10 years. We've never really had a great bench. So this is really that first year to figure those little things out. Who from the Flatbush Five stands out, and who from this vets team is expendable, and who maybe could we keep to be a part of influencing the young guys in their development. That's what we have to figure out this season, and it's definitely going to be tricky and a challenge because we're trying to compete for a top pick as well. So the decisions you make will influence where you draft next summer.
Wow, we got a lot of work to do.
Yep.
I still think that having picking five rookies, of course, yeah, you have to play them to see where they stand at. The question I'm asking is Igor a bust or he's going to be fruitful for the team in the future? I mean, I want to see him play. I really do.
Same.
That's what I really want to do. I really want to see him play, and I want to see him play with the vets because you're going to face vets on the other team. You're going to face the best of the best in the NBA. So we're going to find out.
We
We
are.
are going to find out. I don't think Nolan is ready. That's why I keep saying we need a point guard.
Right.
I think he got the skill set. He just he gotta be a threat. You gotta be able to shoot the ball. And I'm not
Right.
saying you gotta score 20 points, but you gotta show that you will hit the open shot.
Right. And that's Raspig's weakness. So, like, as much as he had the great 11 assists, he only had 4 points. And I'm like, he's showing you interior footwork, but can he still hit a jump shot? No. He only hit one three, and I don't think he hits many
you
threes. So,
can't
like,
you
as
can't
much.
win a game without hitting a jump shot in the NBA. You have to
Exactly.
spread the floor. You have to, because everybody in the NBA is quick.
Right.
Everybody. I know we sit back and say that we judging other players as far as their defense is concerned. If you take that other player, the weakest NBA player, and put him in a league somewhere else, he'll be a superstar. Literally. Because everybody in the NBA can play. That's the smallest thing separate the greatness. That's what I'm saying is a lot of elite players in the NBA.
Right.
So when you go from one team and you go to and play Washington and thinking that they're a subpar team, they got a bunch of athletes on their team.
Right. And that's what we need is to create athletes on this team somehow, which is, it's not impossible, but we definitely have a team that's not built for athleticism besides maybe one or two guys like Drake Powell and maybe
Yeah,
Noah Clowney, if Noah Clowney could actually use his physicality to his advantage. Like, I think that's one thing that's worrisome about this team this year is the physicality on rebounding. That's a huge weakness because besides Dayron, who is probably the greatest rebounder in the NBA, everybody else on this team is not really great at the rebounding aspect, besides maybe Michael Porter Jr. So, like, that is going to be a fight for this team on every given night, especially for the young guys. You got to fight for those rebounds. You got to show you want to do more than just make the cutesy pass or score. Like, you got to be gritty. That's what
yeah,
Brooklyn culture is about. Like, we got to get back to our roots a little bit. I understand what Jordy wants with the Euro style of fast pace, fast offense, turnovers, defense, all that things. But you got to get back to Brooklyn roots a little bit. You like the thing that made Brooklyn Nets the greatest back in the day was every team that faced us, they felt like they had to go through a marathon against
yeah,
us, a triathlon. Like, they felt tired after the game. It's like, damn, we expect these guys to, only lose to us by 5 or 6 points. Well, it's gonna be a blowout. And I
yeah,
think that's what this team has to like show this season. Yes, the wins are not always going to be there a lot of the time, but if you win one or two, 3 games against teams that nobody thought you can beat, that's how you build aura as a team and identity. And I think that's the best way to get stars when it comes to your team is make the case, not just let's hope and pray we get the top pick that we hope a star comes to save us free agency. Like, you want these guys to feel confident when whoever comes to join this team that they got to keep up with them. And I think that's what I hope with these young guys can develop on this team is that identity, that grit, that culture, that mindset. Because, like you said, Scott, it's the mindset that's going to test guys like Yegor Dioman this year. Yes, you were the first ever Brooklyn Nets lottery prospect. Can you handle
yeah,
that this
yeah,
first year, playing
yeah,
minutes, trying to get acclimated? And I think Yegor can handle it. He's showing leadership skills, which I was surprised he would show this early on, but it seems like he's caring a lot about doing the little details behind the scenes to get himself ready to progress his future. So I look forward to seeing what Yegor does, these other guys do, but they definitely have to be mentally strong because this season is going to bust their ass and test their mettle in many ways. And I think this little preseason, we're definitely seeing the energy, the spirit from some of these guys because they want to do well. They don't want to let Jordy down. I could definitely see that in some of these guys we drafted, that they want to play to their part and they want to elevate their games. And I think that's a great mindset. It's just how we're going to maintain that for 82 games and how we're going to make the right moves to ensure we come away from this year, not a wasted season, but a season of growth for the Flatbush Five, and knowing you have a shot of getting one of those 4 franchise prospects in next year's draft. Because that if you do that, then anything is possible for this team, especially in a weak East where we have all the assets in the world, all the cap space to work with, and we have a homegrown squad that doesn't have to be paid for the next 3 to 4 years. That is how the Nets can win in these next 4 to 5 years by drafting right, letting the guys develop, and getting the right vets when it is time to win. Not time to screw us over and not get a top pick. That's what the front office has to figure
So
out this year.
so if the Nets get a top pick next year, say if they
Mm-hmm.
do, we're gonna do that scenario. We
Okay.
get a top pick next year. We I don't want to trade Cam, but I mean if he's gone, just say we trade
Mm-hmm.
him. Say we trade him and just get some late first round pick maybe, if that, right? You think Giannis would want to come to Brooklyn
Depends who you draft.
because of a draft pick?
I mean, if you look at the top four for next year, these guys look outworldly. I mean, this is rare, Scott, but the four guys, the Bonsa,
I
Pearson,
mean, I
Ahmad,
mean, I
and Boozer,
understand.
they're
I
all six
understand that.
nine. They're all six seven, six
I
nine.
understand a potential. I understand its potential. But even Giannis will tell you, potential don't win games in the NBA. It really don't. Not unless you're a superstar coming in. Not unless we see you being a superstar coming into this league. I
No, that's
mean,
very
really. I mean, even Giannis wasn't even a superstar coming into this league. It took him a couple of years.
right. And it might
But
take the Nets 2 more years
yeah.
at least to get everything acclimated. But the
So
good thing is,
why
if
would
you
he come here and want to train and help somebody and that doesn't get what he wants,
well, here's
which is a title.
well the
And
special
he wants it now. He don't want it
right,
next. He don't want it 3 years from now.
right. But
On a potential. On a
that's why
potential.
that's why hitting next year's draft is so crucial because you get the franchise guy. You already have five solid potential solid rotation guys you drafted this year, and then you use an extra year for development. Get some of those winning vets. Then you start building the identity that I'm talking about, and that makes a star want to come in. If you get a DeBonsa, Boozer, Amon, or
So
Peterson, you
so
have a second young star that doesn't have to be paid 50, $60 million till after their fourth or fifth year in the league. So
so
there's a
so
way to beat the system here, Scott. Getting a star here is part of the puzzle. Having good young talent that doesn't have to be paid insane money 3 to 4 years after you get said star. That's I think how the Nets are going to beat the CBA system. At least that's how they want to do it. They don't want to just get a star here and pay some of these other guys 20, $30 million to be the backup. They want to have the young talent on this team that they hopefully drafted to pair with a star where financially he's benefiting a lot. These young guys are working towards their contracts, kind of like what OKC did. That's kind of I think what the Nets want to do. Use the next 2 years at least to grow and develop, have winning culture, have good veterans, and then you go after the star. And anything is possible in this weak East right now. If it was the
so
West, Scott, I agree with you. We're probably screwed at this moment, but the East is really bad right now. And if you get a star on this team with these young core of assets, you could be no worse than a 6 seed
yeah. I
potentially.
I never I don't doubt that. What I do doubt is that a superstar will want to come to a team that doesn't show potential from the very beginning. That's what I mean, that's me. I don't want to go like it's like all right, James went to Miami, right? When
Uh,
he first went and decided to leave Cleveland, he wasn't going to a team that he knew if him being there means being a title, then that's where he want to be. Dwayne Wade was in Miami. That's two superstars, literally. He knew that that would make it, and then they added another one. He knew then that they would win some titles. Why would Giannis go to Brooklyn if neither one of these draft picks are of any caliber right now but a role player?
no, it's a great question. I would say this at the end of
This
the
is the
day,
question I asked.
at the end of the day, what we do know that Giannis wants to come to New York. He wants to be in the New York market because he has connections here. If you've done the research, he does have a lot of connections in New York City. But I also agree that right now we don't have the second star to get him, but we have all the assets in the world. We have young players that can develop and be serviceable rotation guys. And it doesn't stop the Nets if Giannis doesn't want to come here completely. We
Right,
still have other
right.
potential stars that are on the outs, like Morant, eventually Donovan Mitchell. If that Cavs team doesn't win this year, like there are some stars that I'm looking at that could make the jump to a team like Brooklyn. You know why, Scott? To make history, to make themselves legends. Whoever, whatever star or whoever we draft is on this
That is
team.
true,
When you
John.
win the first championship, Scott, there's only one first.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no. Everybody remembers the first. So for a
yeah,
guy like
yeah.
Giannis, why
That is
come to the
true.
Brooklyn Nets? Because you can not only win your second title potentially, you can win Brooklyn their first ever title. That puts
Right.
you in legendary status. That's one thing I would say to why guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie want to come here was to make history. If we can lead a team
Yeah,
that's never won a title to a title, what can anybody say about us? Oh, they
that
could
is
crap
true.
on the stuff we failed at, but hey, we were the first guys to bring a title to the Brooklyn Nets. So there is an appeal
Yeah, it
why
is.
stars want to come here, because you're
You
doing
got a
something
point there.
first that's
You
never
got
been
a
done before.
Yeah, you
So
got a
I
point there.
that would be one of my biggest selling points. But I think for Sean and Joe, their biggest thing has always been the financial aspect. They can supply the money. It's just getting the talent to want to be here long term. That's where I agree with you, Scott. Like, we need commitment from stars. I don't want Giannis to just come here for 2 years, say I tried, I failed, they'll send me to LA or somewhere else. No. If Giannis
Yeah.
wants to come here, there has to be an agreement that he's going to see this through for the remainder of his prime. He's going to help whoever we drafted this year and hopefully a second star next year help move them along. What I liked when I saw last year with Giannis when he was training with Ace and Harper, look, he was revitalized. Like, he's teaching the next generation of potential young stars how to play the game of basketball. That was my appeal with why I wanted Giannis, because not a lot of people look at the IQ Giannis has. Yeah, he's a freak in nature, but this guy studies the game. That's why he's able to be so freaking healthy, so available when he can be to play one of the best games in basketball right now. He's a top three guy, but I also agree with you, Scott. Giannis does not want to be the only guy carrying us like he's doing with Milwaukee right now. That's why next year's draft, if Giannis is not traded before next summer, it's got to be one of those top four. Because if you have a second star to pair with who you drafted this year and then get a Giannis, then you have something everybody can work and benefit from. The pieces to the puzzle. That's what
Yeah.
we need right now. We can't make the Giannis move until we draft a franchise guy in next year's draft. That's why the stakes are so damn high. I keep telling people this. Next summer, Scott, will be the biggest summer in Brooklyn Nets history.
Mm, that's
It
possible.
will be. It will be.
It's possible. It's possible. I'm just curious on how this move is going to be, but then again, we have to really look at the the rookies and see who's going to stay and what we can move. As a team. Is it possible that the Nets can win 20 games this
I
year?
mean,
It's
if you keep this whole core intact, I think it is doable, because you could have beat certain teams that are not playing at their best, and there are a lot of teams getting snake bitten with injuries. So if this core was kept together and the way Jordy likes to coach and win with the vets, it's definitely possible. But I will say this: it was interesting in these two preseason games that Jordy did take his vets out and let the young guys play the fourth quarter and play overtime the other game. That's what Jordy needs to do with the young guys. Play them in those closing minutes. See what type of metal they can build on that. Don't just let the vets play those minutes and hopefully win extra games that you don't need to win. If the young guys win those games, there's nothing you can say about it. They beat that team. But this is what the game Jordy has to play this year. You got to trust your young guys because you want to get the best record possible. But I will say this, Scott. I think there's a huge chance from December 15th to February 5th, which is the trade deadline, that we do move off of some vets. I mean, you look at Terrence Mann as a possibility, Haywood Highsmith, Nick Claxton, who I think a lot of the Brooklyn base members are willing to trade because they're seeing what Danny Wolf is doing right now as a point center. And the problem is with Claxton here, there's no minutes for Danny Wolf. And Dayron Sharp as well wants to grow his game as well. So Claxton is somebody that if you move him and you get a decent haul of assets back for it, you can give Danny Wolf a starting gig potentially or a backup role with Dayron Sharp. But he gets to play actual minutes. And for Cam Thomas, I know a lot of people want to keep Cam Thomas by any means necessary, but rarely has anybody who signed a qualifying offer stay with their team. And there's a huge probability Cam will get moved, and that is going to definitely hurt some Brooklyn base members. But the positive would be that Drake Powell could be the starting two guard potentially and get and really show what he's made of. So I really do feel like if the Nets want to get a top lottery prospect this year, as much as it pains me a little bit to say this, trading Claxton and Cam Thomas might be the ace move to guarantee yourself a top prospect, because it opens up minutes for Wolf and Powell as well.
okay.
Like, you might have to make that
I,
sacrifice.
I understand. I understand. Sometimes you do have to make sacrifice. All I'm saying is when you make that sacrifice, you have to be in position already to make a move. Your
Right.
team has to be ready. You can't go 3 years now, 3 years. This is what OKC did when they made a sacrifice with Giddy. That
Right.
that move with Giddy solidified everything. They were ready.
Right.
They were ready. Giddy was their number one pick. They traded a number one pick, and that solidified their team. So
Right.
if the Nets decide to move Claxton and Cam Thomas, two of their top guns that they have,
Right.
literally, that move has to make a change. It has to be positive. You can't be a 20-win team. You
Right.
can't you
Because
can't be no more 26-win team. You can't be a 30. You got to be in contention. You have to be in the playoff contention team at that
right.
time.
And
If
and the
if
thing,
it doesn't happen, then people are going to get fired.
right. And that's the thing with Claxton and Thomas. They are the longest tenured Nets right now, which
They
is shocking
also they
because
also vets. They
right, they
know the
are
game. They know the
right.
game. They know what to expect.
Right, and that's why I wish Cam would have signed the contract because we don't have to worry about his future. It
Right.
would be
You
this is
need it.
his year to
We
prove
need
he
him.
is that guy. But that's just it, though.
We
When you
need
chose,
him. He's 24 years old, man.
I get it, Scott. But when you
He's
chose a
20.
qualifying offer, if he does super well this year, there's going to be one of those 10 teams that will offer him more than what we're giving him. And Sean Marks
I
doesn't want
don't
to
think
offer him
so.
more
I
than
don't.
$20 million at
Well,
this point.
he's going to offer somebody. He going to try to offer somebody else, another star, offered him over 30 or 40 or even 50, and only have one star on the team.
Right, and
That's not going to work. That's
I
not
was
going to work.
you and I talked about this. I was willing to keep Cam on this team to potentially be a second star to Giannis if that's the way the chips fell. But when you
Right.
sign the qualifying offer, it makes the organization go, "Hey, listen, we like Cam, but if the time comes to trade Cam, they're not going to have any regrets about it. I'm saying them because look how they treated Cam last 4 years. They never said he was a core piece whatsoever. They just said, hey, Cam puts in work at the gym. Cam is a great scorer. They've never given validation. So that to me like makes me and some other guys like Leaf and Joey go, this is a very short term relationship. Like we like what Cam could do. We've all seen a potentiality where Cam could fit on a Nets championship team in a certain role that maybe he doesn't want. Whereas with Claxton, we've seen what he can do for over 6 years. Offensively, that game is never going to change. Defensively, he's giving you some stuff here or there, but he's getting older, getting up there to those prime years. And right now, he's
I
making over
mean,
$20 million. Like
I mean,
he's
I,
seen what he Claxton could do at this
yeah.
point.
I mean, in a league where centers really rarely make it, not every center is decent. Not every center is actually winning games. Let's just put it that way.
Right,
Not
and
it's just a handful that's
right.
actually superstar level.
Right. And I'll give it to Clarkson. He has come into preseason with a lot more energy, a lot more focus, doing the things that he used to do. But you see what Danny Wolf does, it's like, man, Wolf can do all the offensive things Clarkson can't do, like run point. Clarkson used to be a point guard. Doesn't do any of that anymore, but Wolf has point guard skills. He needs to work on his rebounding and defense, which Clarkson can do. But if Wolf can figure out the rebounding defense, it's almost like Clarkson, we like you, but Wolf is the future, but you can't see that with Clarkson currently on the team. So I agree with you, Scott. If you're going to trade Cam and Claxton this year, one, you have to get a top four prospect to justify letting Claxton and Cam go. I will say so the Brooklyn fans. The only way you trade Claxton and Cam this year is if this organization knows that they can give themselves the best chance to get a top four guy. If you don't get that top four guy, Scott, and Claxton and Cam go to contending teams, do well, it was two swing and misses, and you broke your past core. You broke your past core because you thought you could get the top prospect to recruit a Giannis. It's a gamble. It's one of the biggest gambles ever of trading Cam and Claxton together this season or separately. Like if you
That's
trade those
why.
guys
That's
away,
why I don't
you
think
got
they
to
will
get that
trade him.
top guy.
That's why I don't think they're going to trade him
Who
because
trade
you're
who?
not
Claxton or Cam?
Claxon. They're not going to trade
Mm.
Claxon.
Yeah, but how's Wolf ever going to get those minutes? Because Scott Wolf looks like he's ready to
Well,
play
let him
NBA
play. Well,
minutes.
let him play the three.
And he's not a three. He's a five. He's a five. He's a
He
point
can
center.
handle as a three. He can handle the ball.
Yeah, but he's not athletic. The 3 or 4 positions are reserved for guys that have some type of athleticism. He doesn't. So like it would be out of par for Danny Wolf. Like I understand positionless basketball, but common sense
Yeah.
basketball has to exist too. I think that's what some people with that
He
philosophy
played. He played the
misunderstand.
four. He played the four in college.
Yeah, but his playmaking was his strongest attribute, and if you could convert him to a center, it makes him more skilled. He's not
He's. I
athletic.
don't think he's a center. I really,
He's
just
definitely
like
not a forward.
Claxon, I think he's a forward.
I
I
don't.
just think I think he's a forward. I honestly think he's more of a forward than a center.
I think he has more of Sengun
Because
Sabonis in his DNA as a big
he
than
got
as
to
a
be able to
forward.
rebound. He got to be able
Right,
to rebound.
and
You
that's what we
can't.
got to see him work on.
Well, then I mean, either you have it in the when you come out of college or you don't. You can't teach hustle. You can't
Right.
teach strength. You can't. There's no teaching that. What is this teaching thing? You either have it or not. Yes, the game is faster. You see different coverage, and everybody is quick. Which you saw in college, you're not going to see in the pro. Everybody is quick. There's no weakness on these teams. It's just that you got to beat your man. Now, he has shown that he can do that. Wolf has promise. It's key on where they place him at. That's what I think.
No, I
The,
agree with you,
the key
and
is where they put him at and what his role is.
I agree with
Because
you.
I think that's the key. That's his development. His development will go from there.
Right. And I would say this, there was an article I think Breezy talked about where like in positionless basketball, they believe in like three positions on the court and you have five guys that can fill each of those positions. Maybe with Danny Wolf, the ultimate goal is for him to be a combo of a 5 and 4, not necessarily play the four, but if he has a defensive matchup where he just has to be there, maybe that's what they do. Same with Yegor. He's a point forward. He can run point in some plays, but he's going to be a forward that's going to be required to handle defensive assignments, shoot some threes. Like I feel like that's what Jordy wants is that these guys to play multiple positions on the court, not have one set position. But if you want a primary position for Wolf, I personally think he's a point center just because if he gets the rebounding under control and the game speeds up for him on defense, then he really is a center. But I agree, Scott. We got to see it. It's just for the Nets right now, the way I'm looking at it, if the Nets do want to get a top pick this year, it might have to come at the expense of Claxton and Thomas. I don't want to say it, but if you do keep Claxton and Cam on this team, Scott, and they get minutes over the young guys, there is potentiality to win 20 games this year. And we rolled the dice last year with that, Scott, and look what it got us. It didn't get us no generational talent. It got us rotation guys, which isn't a horrible thing. But considering the fact you look at the
Well,
landscape of
well,
the
well,
NBA, you
well.
need a star. You need a
He
star,
picked
Scott.
he picked Igor at 8. 8. I know. Everybody is saying, and this is for all the Net fans, that usually the eighth pick is not a good pick. I disagree with that. If you're in the top 10, you should be a decent player. Remember, top 10 in the NBA draft of thousands of players, and you pick Igor Demen. I'm not saying that he ain't got skill. What I'm saying is you picked him 8th out of all players. That's a lot of good players in that draft.
Right.
He's
It's it
got he's got to show. He's got to be a piece. It's
got to be
no,
pieces.
oh, wait 5 years, wait 4 years. You got to listen. When they drafted Cam Thomas, we knew he had ice in his veins. We knew that. We kept saying that his defense was no good. He didn't know how to pass the ball, which is cool. I give you that. But he did one of the three things that you do in basketball very, very well, which was score. Those are one of the traits that you got to be able to do if you're going to be drafted in, especially in the first 10 pick.
Right. Right.
especially, especially when you got players like Kneppel in Charlotte getting busy.
No, that's very true. And this is the thing with like this is it's a huge gamble if you trade Claxton Cam Wade because that means you're banking on these guys to handle their spots and be the real core pieces. And I would say this about Drake Powell. Look at his skill set because if you haven't seen his skill set on the preseason games, you got to look
It
closely
seemed
and
like
say,
it seemed like
see what
he
he's
should have
got.
been. It seemed like he should have been top 10. The
I
way
would.
he's
I
playing.
don't want to go top 10, but maybe top 20, just because you look at what he
Yeah,
has already. He has athletic ability, he has the height factor, and he has uber defense. Like, he has the three main qualities that Cam Thomas doesn't have. If Cam had those three qualities, that guy's looking at $30 million straight up front, Scott, because the scoring is part of everything else that Cam could have done if he has those things.
I
But look at
think
Jake
I think
Powell.
I think a lot of people are putting Cam. I think it's hard to shake a, a a look that the league gives you, regardless of. I'm not saying that Cam was a great. He wasn't a great defender when he came in. He wasn't. That's. Uh, would you say that's the Nets' fault? Because those years that he was there, they didn't develop him. They didn't. You went through three coaches. He went through three coaches in 4 years. What kind of development you gonna get?
No, listen, we've acknowledged that this organization definitely didn't push Cam's development to the full max like they could have. But the three things Cam doesn't have that he can't magically fix is he can't be told than what he is. He can't be athletic because he's not athletic. And defensively, I know he had two defensive plays today, but for most of his career and even last year, he couldn't even crack the top 400. Like, Drake Powell has the three factors Cam doesn't have. And if Drake Powell has the offense Cam has, I mean, Scott, I don't want to say this to upset Cam fans, but Drake Powell would take Cam's job on the court because Powell has the
I think
three
it's
main
too
things.
soon. I think
No,
it's
no,
too soon.
I'm not. I'm not saying right now. Okay,
Oh,
obviously Cam is here longer than him. He has the scoring.
it's
The
too
playmaking
soon.
is a good work in progress. But Powell has the three factors that if Cam had those factors, Scott, he's a superstar potentially in this league. But Powell is just missing an offensive game. That's why, like, if you do trade Cam and Claxton, Wolf and Powell have to be able to do the things that Claxton and Cam can't do consistently in order to be those future core guys. It's a catch 50-50 if you trade both Cam and Claxton away this season because you have to bank on Powell and Wolf being able to do what they're doing in preseason and actually be impactful when the games do matter.
I don't
It's a
think
huge
Sean.
gamble.
I don't think Sean will make that kind of move on. Well, I don't think any team in the NBA is not going to let they skilled players that been in the league already for a little bit, say 3, 4 years, sit on the bench and let rookies play. Not unless you tanking. Period. Period. I don't, not unless you a star. Now, if you were somebody that we could say, oh, well, he went through, you a man child, and you already came in the league like LeBron did, you was beating NBA type talent in high school. I mean, that's unheard of. None of these draft picks are
No,
like that.
you're
None of
right.
them,
You're right about that.
none of them, they good. Don't get me wrong. They can shoot. They can score. They can do their little thing. I'm not saying that they not good players. What I'm saying is none of them are that generational type thing. So you banking on that they will materialize in a system, which is possible, but you're taking a real chance with young people. I'm
No,
telling
I
you.
agree. I agree with you, but I think that's why Marks and Joe and Jordy did draft these guys because they do all the things that guys like Claxton Cam can't do. We know Claxton's main skill is what he gives you on the defensive end, and Cam we know his superpower is what he gives you on the offensive end. But if they do the other things that you need to be cornerstone pieces, they
Yeah.
unfortunately can't, and that's where those guys like Powell. Wolf, maybe Yegor, hopefully Yegor, because he's our lottery prospect, and eventually Nolan and Saraf, cross your fingers on Saraf that those guys can eventually do all those things. That's why it's positionless basketball. You're good at everything. Knock down threes, knock down mid range shots, guard multiple positions. Like, it's a work in progress for all five of the guys we drafted. But in these preseason games, I do see the potential, and it makes me go, hey, there is a 50% chance that Sean and Joe weren't completely idiotic in the moves that they made. But we have to see that after 82 games and after 2 to 3 years in the league. That's the waiting period, unfortunately, but it's not a bad thing. But I will say this though, Scott: if your goal is to get a top lottery prospect this next year, the organization has to be a little selfish. They can't just say, "Oh, we don't want to take the mids away from the vets. We value them like we value Cam Johnson." Cam Johnson's on Denver right now with Joker. Like, if we do this again, where we push the vets over the young guys, Scott, and screw ourselves out of top pick, what are we building? We're just going through the motions, recycling the cards, and not doing anything as far as progression goes. We're getting better, and that starts with getting homegrown talent. Like, that's where it truly starts.
Okay. All right. I agree. It starts there, but you always end up going back to the vets. You
Of
always do.
course. When it's
You
winning
you
time. When it's
you
winning
can't.
time.
Yeah, but then you got to bet on that they want to come and play with those type of players because you're not winning at that time. You're not winning with a bunch of rookies.
Right, but that's where Jordy's reputation comes in. If people do respect Jordy, like you and I have heard from the Kings, from various media outlets and people, you
We'll
have to
see.
trust that Jordy knows how to recruit stars because it's his game plan that they have to follow. And Jordy's not one to mince words. He's also one to defend his guys if they have his loyalty. So
I don't
Jordy
know.
is going to be a part of this, regardless of what I mean or not. Jordy, in many ways, last year was the sixth man off the bench directing these magical wins that we didn't expect. So
But we were
if Jordan
playing
could get that
vets. We were playing vets last year. We were
right,
playing vets when we were winning. It
right, but he
wasn't. It
got
wasn't no rookies on that court.
right, but he
Even
got
though they
them
might have been G League players too,
mhm,
but you got to remember G League players.
right, but he
They've been
got them to
around.
buy into his system. Now imagine if you could get homegrown star talent and guys on the market to buy into that system. Then you have a winning, functioning sustainability. That's the big word that Sean and Joe want to keep
Well,
preaching for
yeah,
10 years.
had
Is
that.
how do we get there? How do we get sustainability? It
We
starts with
had
having
it.
a great
We
coach.
had
It
it. We
starts with
had it
having
when.
homegrown talent and vets.
Yeah,
It starts with all those pieces.
we had it. We had it before Kyrie and Harden and before everything. Before we had our big three, we had a great team.
We had a fun
They
team,
we had, but they were playoff bound.
right? But
They were a playoff bound team,
they were a
and they
good
were
team.
rising stars. They were players on that team that teams looked at and said they are decent players. That's a decent team.
No, I agree.
I
I
mean,
agree that we had a
I
fun
mean, we had
squad,
that before, and we got rid of that to get some superstar. And then what happened? I'm not
right?
saying that we could have won the title if it wasn't for injuries.
And egos
Well, and but injuries mainly.
and bad communication. It was really bad communication, egos, and injuries. Like
Yeah,
literally, those were
and
the main
bad
things.
coaching that didn't
All
make
right,
any
coaching.
sense.
Right, Steve
Yeah,
Nash was horrible. Yeah.
we had a little mess, but that's what I mean. That's what they were saying when they got in there. That it was kind of like, you know,
All right, but
it was.
that's the special thing about the new CBAs. You can't cheat with 3 stars anymore. You got to be lucky to get 1 star in the draft, and maybe if a superstar wants to come here, you make the money work. But you can't just get 2 stars anymore. You have to hope it's one of the guys you draft. And for the 5 we drafted, if they could be solid rotation guys, and your guy next year is a second star, then you get that superstar. You have a good coaching staff. Then this all could function magically somehow. But we have
I
to
just,
get to that
I
point
just, I
first.
just hope that we as net fans sit back and say, are we looking on the other side that's green and on the other side of the hill? Are we thinking that just because it seems green and shiny on that other side that we get rid of what we got now? That's all I'm saying. That's
Right.
all I'm saying. Sometimes it's not the big move, it's the little moves that make a team better.
Right.
And I'm just saying because I just have this bad feeling that we get rid of players. We got rid of Cam Johnson, who played well for us. He shot really well last year, and he goes to Denver. He shoots well in Denver, and they win a title. And then we sit back and say, "Oh well, he didn't do that here." Yes, he did do it here. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He did it here, but you was impatient. And it wasn't what we want to see. We wanted to see youth. But that's not what the league is about. That's not what the Players Association is about. That's my thing. So I don't know if that's it can happen. I hope it happen. I hope it works. I agree. I'm not totally disagreeing with what John is saying neither, because sometimes you have to move on. I get it. Sometimes change is good. Sometimes change is not good. We're gonna find out though. That's for sure. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. I was doing the thing with. Don't forget, is it a mistake trading Cam Thomas? The link is in the comments. You can also use that barcode that's on the screen to say yes, option A, or option B, no. I mean, I'm curious to see where the fans, the real fans of the NBA, I mean, the New York Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. I'm trying to take the Knicks spot. Brooklyn Nets. What the Brooklyn Net fans think? Is it a mistake trading Cam Thomas? What you think? I'm curious. I'm hoping that everybody go to hit the link in the chat or hit the barcode. Put your 2 cents in. Do you think it's a mistake? I think it's a mistake. I didn't even vote, so it's at 0-0. It's 50-50 right now. I'm curious on what a lot of people, because it seems to me like a lot of people want to get rid of Cam Thomas. Like a lot of fans feel like you believe the narrative that the media says about him, being empty calories or something. I don't see it. I see him as a player that at 24 years old is gifted. I think it's a mistake letting him go. That's my opinion. But I think the Nets already made their opinion about, Cam Thomas. And a lot of teams don't like to give the players that control. It seemed like a lot of the league is into this, taking control away from players. I think that's what it is. I think there's more to the story than what you think. I think the league dictates what's going on. And I think fans don't focus on that. And they know that. They know that. They know you ain't going to focus on it. You win a couple of games, you'll forget all about it. They know this. It's entertainment. I don't think it's like, how when I grew up and we played basketball on the streets on a black top, where the game was true. It was about skill. And it wasn't easy neither. Nobody was giving up nothing. But it was about skill level. I think a lot of people in the NBA got skill. It's what the NBA is selling. That's what I think. I think real people who pay attention to basketball knows that. But they ain't going to tell you that. I mean, they're going to tell you who they like and all this craziness. Oh, he garbage, he can't play defense. I think the level of skill is high. That's what I think. I always say, you get yours, I can get mine. I'm going to get mine. You got to have that mentality, like every player got to have that mentality. I'm going to get mines. So we'll see. We will see. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Igor thing, which a lot of people, like I said, he's the eighth pick in the NBA draft. I mean, you got to show me something, kid. You got to show something. You cannot be the eighth pick in the NBA and not show me anything. Or talking about you need 3 years. No, you not. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You can't do that. That can't be done. It don't take 8 years for the eighth pick in the NBA draft now. I have heard people say the eighth draft is usually the most worst. If you look at past, I don't believe in the past, be present to now. I just feel like if you was the top 10 in any draft, regardless of what it is, whether it's a weaker draft or not, there's more superstars or more potential good players in the weakness of the draft. You've been one draft to the next draft. Those guys seen other guys play. You know what you got to. You know what they expect. You know what your game need to be. You know what level your game needed to be at. You didn't put the work in, you shouldn't be getting drafted in the top 10. Period. Just because a draft is weak in the top 10 doesn't mean there's no great players in that draft. It was weak in the top 10 because teams picked bad players. GMs did not do their work. You didn't do your work. Your scouting team sucked. There is no such thing as there's no talent. There's people playing ball all the time. That's all they do is they live ball. So that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. I'm not one to sit there and say I played ball. There was other things that I wanted to do, but when I did play ball, that's all I did. That's all I lived with. I had a basketball in the bed with me. That's all I did was basketball. I don't care. I woke up, there was a ball next to my head. So don't give me that. You can't give me that. It's up to the GMs to find that talent. To find it. So, and these GMs are not finding it. They look in other places. They looking overseas. They expand in the market. NBA wants to expand the market. That makes a difference in the league. It's about money and control and power. You know what it is about. As an NBA fan, as a basketball fan, you should know that already. You should know exactly what basketball is about. It's entertainment, and we're going to be entertained. A lot of people just don't got time to be worried about basketball players with what's going on in their life. So they're not going to focus on the small details of how the industry is worked. They don't even see it as an industry. They see it as a sport. And sports is an industry. So let's be real. Let's keep it real. Now, whether they pay Cam Thomas, that's up to them. I don't know. They ain't going to pay him. Let him go. He's going to go somewhere else and be a flamethrower. And then they're going to be laughing at us. Again. and then you want to know why we suck. And you don't hold, and the league don't care, and the owners don't care because the stadium is going to fill up. The stadium, people love basketball and they love to be entertained. It's entertainment. I watched that before the Nets came to Brooklyn, and I watched that with the Knicks. The Knicks sucked badly, but that stadium filled out, and it had the highest ticket in the NBA. And it stayed full. Why would you fix it? Didn't need to. Didn't care about winning no title. They didn't care. The players did. That's why he wanted to come to the Knicks because of that at that time. Players are coming to the Knicks now thinking they can get a ring and bounce. Yeah, you'll be God here if you win a title. You be God, one title. It ain't like the Yankees win 26 titles. Just one. That's all you need in basketball. Just one. So, that being said, I'm getting ready to bounce soon. I ain't getting no activity, but I'm going to put this back up there so people can see. I'm gonna put it back into the comments. Maybe a week later, or a couple of days later, I'm gonna come back to it, and we're gonna see what people really think. What are they thinking when it comes to the Cam Thomas? I'm gonna put it again. Link to survey. Link to survey. Link to survey. Hit the link. The link is in the survey. The QR code is right there. Take your phone. If you're looking at it from a tablet or a TV screen, just put your phone to it. Yes? Is it a mistake trading Cam Thomas? Or option B, no. I already know. You people who know me know I'm a Cam Thomas fan. You know what I'm going to say. Yes, it's going to be a mistake. I just don't think you get rid of talent like that. I just don't. I think you have to work that out. I understand there's aprons involved, and I understand you want to keep free agency open, and I understand all that. You just don't get rid of. It's a bad omen to get rid of good talent. It's just a bad omen. I don't think you recover from that. The basketball gods do not like that. Plus, good players look at that and say, you know what? I know if I was a decent player, I'm looking at it going, you know what? This is retarded. You think I'm coming there? You have to luck up and get a superstar out of the draft, which is possible. You can get a decent player. Don't get me wrong. You're just not going to win a title. You're just not going to even make a run at a title. And you're talking about culture. That's not culture. That's called manipulation. And I don't think manipulation works now. Everybody got to be young, buy in. Everybody got to just buy in. Everybody got to buy in, and it seemed like nobody's buying in, and everybody's not buying in Brooklyn. You got rid of some people to get what? Peanuts? To free up space? I get it. You did Cam Johnson a favor by sending him to Denver. Did him a favor by sending him to Denver. What favor do you do us? What favor you do the fans? Okay, we'll see. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe. Don't forget. It's your boy Scott Lewis, Apartment Gaming and more. I'm out. Peace. Hit the like and subscribe button. I'm trying to keep this channel open. Thank you.